Well, I appreciate that outlook. Hello, welcome everybody. I met some of you this Thursday and others I've met before, but this is a community discussion very similar to what we did on Thursday, since I think everybody here was on Thursday. But this is really the whole reason that I had the thing on Thursday, is because I feel like I already do this every month, where I bring people together to talk and explore and have community and stuff. But this one is a little less focused on social justice. It's more focused on just building community and talking and being open-minded. And today we're here to talk about friendship. So I am gonna go check my Meetup account and message somebody that said they were gonna show up. But in the meantime, I feel like if you guys could say hello to each other and warm up the mic and maybe start talking a little bit about friendship, hopefully I'm gonna go find someone else to join.
Okay.
Oh, sure. I'll actually introduce Janine. Sherry is actually an aunt of mine in Chicago. Right
Oh,
Hi.
wow. So we're in the same time zone, right? I'm in Minnesota.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yay,
Where in
8:30.
Minnesota?
I'm in a place called Stacy, so about 40 minutes north of the
Okay.
city. Have you ever
Well,
been?
I grew up in Iowa, right over the border,
Oh, no way.
south of the Twin Cities. Yes.
A couple of my old coworkers, they actually opened up a coffee shop in Des Moines. So whenever I make the trip back to California, I always pass back and
Sure.
do the local support. So.
Absolutely. Yes.
Were you a Bulldog? Did you go to Drake? That's the only college I know there.
No, actually, I went to St. Teresa's in Winona, Minnesota.
Oh, cool. Not gonna lie, I think this is like a hidden gem within Minnesota that a lot of people don't talk about, because as much as I used to like be an orientation leader and brag about California, like I absolutely like I'm just smitten with Minnesota for most of it. So and then Rocky's mom, I actually didn't get your first name. What was it?
I am Micah.
Hi, Mike. I'm Janine. How's everything going in California for you?
Oh gosh, well, you know, we're still living kind of in lockdown mode. You know, despite all of the social unrest that's been happening, with COVID being as present as it is. My husband is a kidney transplant recipient.
Oh yeah, how's Jay doing?
Yeah,
Rocky was saying that the other day.
yeah, he's doing good. We have, like I said, truly been hovering over him with all of this, you know, pandemic issues going on. But he's doing good. Thank you for asking, Jordan. But with him being so susceptible, we are being extra cautious in terms of getting out, because we, you know, can bring something to him. So we are living very conservatively until they break through getting closer to a vaccine.
Yeah.
I am too, because I'm older.
Yeah. Yeah, my aunt wears her age very well. She looks like she's in her.
I'm actually Rocky's great aunt.
Oh no!
And
I was
Mike
wondering
is
how you guys
not.
knew each other.
Yeah, I was married to Micah's uncle.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I'm in Chicago. So we're not on lockdown, but we're still restricted. We're now, the restaurants can open if they have outdoor seating, or if they have an open wall, they can have a few seats inside that open wall. And that just started Wednesday. The hair salons are open, barbershops, gyms, things like that, but with a lot of restrictions. You know, we're still walking up and down aisles in grocery stores with arrows. One way only, which is just fine here, just fine. Don't want to go running out too fast.
Yeah, there's like some opening up going on in Southern California now. And me personally, I'm like, this seems like it may be a product of people complaining, not really it being actually safe. The CDC hasn't said anything different, so.
No. I talked to a couple of restaurant owners here in my neighborhood, and they were both very, very cautious. You know, they've been doing takeout and delivery, and they've been doing fine because they have that ability, and they're small restaurants. And they've opened a couple of outdoor tables, but they're not rushing into it. They don't want to damage what they already have because they're doing pretty okay the way they are. They don't want to lose that progress. So
Yeah.
That's good.
Now,
So it sounds-
Janine, what took you to Minnesota?
What didn't take me here? I lived in New York City for about 2.5 years after I left California, and I met a man that I fell in love with. So
Ah,
yeah, so after about 3 years of going back and forth of him flying around the country, he for a long time was a product specialist for like Jaguar and Land Rover. So when he came to New York City, it was more of like just visits. So when we chose to live together, it was for a few more months in New York City until we up and started traveling. And so I left there in January, went to Thailand with him for 2 months, did some like Krav Maga, Muay Thai, traveled Japan and Taiwan, and then when we got back, we decided to come here. I've been doing improv and being a fitness instructor ever since.
Oh, wow.
So I am in Minnesota living my dream right now. Just kidding.
good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good for you.
But yeah.
Now, how did you find out about the group?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so long story short, one of my like literally like sister from like another mister. I was in college. I spent more time with her family for Christmases, Easters, Thanksgivings than my own. And so now that I'm living out in Minnesota, we started like really reconnecting because I was kind of off the grid for this last year of just like traveling. And then I let her know, like, I was still very curious, still trying to like find groups that were engaging in conversations other than the, how's the weather? How's your life? And so she connected me with Jordan. And I don't know, I can't always make every weekly call, but I'm always like, okay, I've got a place in my schedule. So
Good for you.
just the seeking. So yeah. What about you? It sounds like you guys all did something on Thursday. Was it like a
Oh, sorry, Janine. In my mind, you went, but we talked on Wednesday, and I put those 2 days
Yeah.
together.
Okay. I was like, wait, what happened yesterday?
So I started,
No, yeah.
Michelle and I, who is a really great friend of mine. She's a fashion designer, and she did a reality chat earlier on creativity.
Yeah.
We decided to start having a forum for social justice, and it's called #Heard. And so we talk about, or we try to bring people together so they can talk and hear other people's perspectives, listen to people's stories, and really seek to understand more of the subtle complexities of why this is an issue rather than making inflammatory, polarizing statements and then going for action based on lack of knowledge. Like, let's educate each other. Let's see what we have to offer. Let's share information, and then let's go do something that has long-term value. So that's the idea behind that. And then I thought you came to that, but you didn't.
Didn't it?
Yeah, that was what's happening on Thursday.
Okay. Well, in that case, is this going to be like a weekly thing for her too, similar to PaCT and Reality Chat?
Reality Chat is a weekly conversation I have with one person, and that's on Instagram Live. And having one with Rocky actually next week.
Oh no, I think
They
it's
get
okay. I don't.
They get recorded and posted. The community discussion is once a month. The workshop is once a month. And then
Okay.
Heard right now, I think, is going to be weekly. But I'm going to do that at least once a month going forward now.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, yeah, I'm glad we all got a chance to meet. Micah, I want to thank you. A lot of times I get very like, I'm running an event. Let's do stuff. And you kind of like slowed me down by like asking Janine about how she was doing and where she's from and stuff. So thank you for giving me that reminder that, you know, people are important.
No worries, that's my job.
And next time you got to tell me about your life, Mike, because I want to hear it on the other side too.
Yeah, definitely.
Want to hear about your life too.
Oh, my life?
Yeah.
Oh,
Tell me what you do.
Hmm?
tell them what takes up your day.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What takes up my day, which is part of what makes these things so exciting. We own a business. We own a media company. We produce sports content featuring children in sports. Essentially, the best way to describe it is like what ESPN does for college and pro athletes. We do that for children. And being in that industry and with it being so technologically driven, and with me being in the generation that I'm in, which is on the other side of the horizon, I surround myself by millennials because they know much more about technology than I do. You guys were born into it. So I kind of function, work in a world where I'm surrounded by young people, and I'm just fascinated with your perspectives, because this mess that we are leaving you guys, it's just very rewarding to hear the progressive attitudes, positions that you guys are taking towards making change. And actually, I and my aunt, we have conversations about that. She's very much that way as well. So we find ourselves kind of discussing what the future may hold in the hands of young people like you. So that's what I do. And like I said, I love talking to young people, being around them. I learn so much. My son is in that generation, and he actually works in the industry with us. So it's just really kind of exciting to be able to listen, hear, learn, and to share. And in this day and time, with so many young people being their thought processes being bogged down by technology to the point that they don't think anymore, I find it refreshing to find a population of young people that know how to communicate, know how to talk, know how to ask questions, and really want to know. So that's a little bit of my my background.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think how I ended up, or how I found this group. Actually, my husband teases me. He says I am the one person he knows that can find the biggest ball of twine anywhere in the United States. So I'm known for any given weekend of suggesting, let's just go out and do something unusual, something different. And this particular weekend, I was prowling around on the internet, and usually, because we live near the Claremont community, so usually that's our go-to spot, because before COVID, at any given time, something is going on around the colleges, the university. And as I was kind of hitting around that area, with Pomona being so close, information came up on the PaCT. And the discussion that week, I'm trying to remember the first week we went, I think it was identity, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And that drew me in. So, my husband is like, okay, I'm not sure if I'm into this. And I'm like, come on, let's just go and check it out. And we went, and it was so rewarding. So that's how we found out about it. And our son, he was doing something else, so he didn't even know anything about it. So we were telling him about it the whole week, and so we got him all on the bandwagon. So that's kind of how we ended up, with the group. And then of course I shared it with my aunt, and I'll let you tell them, share your perspective, but she's here now. So.
Well, I'm retired, so I don't have the opportunity to talk to as many people of different ages as I used to. And I'm really enjoying my connection with Rocky and our conversations over the last few years. And so this opportunity, he invited me to join, and I thought, well, this would be good, because then I'll have another opportunity to share with others, just besides my friends who are all retired, or a lot of my friends are retired. So this is a great opportunity. Rocky, I thought you and Jordan is this how you met, through this group?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were friends, and then he brought you into this.
No, I never met Jordan before this.
This is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool being able to do something like this. I feel like, I guess kind of like what you were just saying, and maybe we can tie this into friendships. You get kind of, with social media, sometimes you get kind of insulated, and so it's kind of like it's easy to just kind of stick to your phone, your quick 5 friends that you talk to, that you go somewhere with, and then everyone else you're just kind of like, yeah, they don't really. And so sometimes it's weird how we have more technology to reach more people, and but still a lot of times for many people it's hard to get out there and just expand their network and their groups. So stuff like that. I mean, we've met a lot of pretty cool people through this stuff. Yeah.
I have to tell you, Jordan, we still in our household have fond memories of Judah at some of the sessions and his perspective, because he comes from a zone that is truly branded by his own identity. But it leads to stimulating conversation. And actually, some of the members that we've met, we still, in any given week, will bring up in our family conversations different topics and things that were discussed at different group meetings.
Wow.
So,
it is so
very enjoyable.
It's so surreal to hear feedback about the work you do. And I'm really glad that it's having a positive effect. In case you guys didn't know, Judah is the official poet laureate of Pomona, ordained by the city of Pomona. He got that this year, so he's basically the official poet for the city.
Did not know that.
Yeah, did not know that, but can definitely see it.
And he runs a poetry venue called Lion Like Mind State. And right now they have the online Instagram poetry thing with Trejay Powers. But they have a venue at the Pomona Fairplex where they do the open mic night. And it's been going for, I think, 10 years. But he's a very positive member of the community, and he was one of the first people that I met that made me feel like it's possible to create platforms and do stuff. And he used to have an art gallery in Pomona, literally next door to the Pomona Fish Market, if you know where that is. And it was called Machine Pomona. And everybody in the community that was doing something positive, Jelani Latif, he was my first capoeira instructor. That's a martial art. We had classes there. People with different clothing brands or artists could host their galleries or have boutiques in there. I used to run a nonprofit organization called To Have a Heart, where we encourage people to get out on the streets and ride bicycles and meet each other. And for some reason, I had what did I put on there? I put a fashion show on there to promote bike rides for some reason. It was fun. He's a really good part of the community, and he's always, what I love about him is he's consistent, and he can disagree with you but still be your friend tomorrow. And so that's something I really value in terms of our friendship. But yeah, friends are I think it's really important to think about what you define as a friend and how you treat people, and if everybody you know is a friend, and not necessarily to everybody make a resume and submit it to me so I can know if you qualify for my friendship, but in terms of letting people into your circle and trusting them to be vulnerable with them, and spending your time and effort. You only have so much time and effort, and so unfortunately I can't spend all my time with everybody, and that's kind of in my mind where I get to this point where I need to come up with criteria that's important to me. I need to spend my time with people that are valuable to me, and I need to also show them value, to reciprocate. And that's where the term reciprocity comes in, Janine, which I learned from a Lauryn Hill song, because that's where I learned it. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. And I'm super glad that, because I'm very do stuff. I don't if it's not on the schedule, I'm not doing it. And I got too much stuff on the schedule. And so the fact that we slowed down as a group to kind of just talk about how our day was, who we are and stuff, that is something I always forget to do, and something I know that's important. And every time somebody brings it up, I'm yep, let me take a step back. But that's important. That's one of the cornerstones of friendship. And friendship can be a lot of different ways. And you don't have to be my best friend, and I don't have to know you for 20 years for me to care about you and for me to value your input or me to trust you. And so thank you guys for kind of participating in that early meet and greet stage, which I am trying to learn how to like acknowledge that I forget to do that and get better at that. But I think it's very important. And yeah, before I get into talking too much, because this is not a workshop, it's a discussion. I heard Sherry say you had some friends and they were retired. And Janine, I know Boods is your friend. Rocky.
Also.
Yeah, Rocky and Micah. I don't want to say that you don't have any friends, but me personally, I haven't heard you guys talk about your friends, and so I don't want to assume that you consider yourself to have friends. But I'm kind of curious, like on First Shot, Rocky brought up something very interesting about social media. Is this kind of, you can use it in a way where it becomes an illusion. And like if you go on my Facebook page, like I remember there was a day where I ticked over to 1,000 friends, and I was like, that's an interesting number. But I don't have 1,000 friends. That's like not true at all. Like in terms of people I talk to, people that I trust to pick me up when I'm stranded somewhere, people that I tell my insecurities to, like that number is nowhere near 1,000. It's like closer to 3. And so I'm curious, like when you guys are defining your friends and when you're talking about your group of friends and whatnot, like do you guys like think about that in terms of these people are my friends, or this person is my coworker, this person is this guy I hang out with, and this person is my friend? Or like how is there a way that you guys construct that in your minds? Maybe I'm asking leading questions.
I think some of those for me are acquaintances.
Okay.
And people I obviously worked in many different positions in my career, and I still have contact with people in almost all those places, and those individuals are friends. Those are relationships that carried along after that job ended, and we thought enough of each other that we put the time into continuing to keep in touch. And I have friends from first grade, and those relationships have deepened. We were friends as kids. We went to college. We went off, but now they're really precious relationships because we've known each other so long. Although we haven't been together in the same cities. I touched base with one of the gals the other day, and she's up in Eden Prairie, which is one of the Minneapolis suburbs. Yeah. And she said, I'm glad we kept in touch all these years. What are you doing? What?
I'm just enjoying the bridge you guys have in relating to that part of the United States.
Oh.
We are totally man out here in California.
Oh, quick question for Janine.
Yeah.
Your local pizza places, do they cut the pizza? They cut pizza into squares or slices?
I'm gonna totally disappoint you. I'm vegan. I actually don't eat pizza anymore.
I've had vegan pizza before.
If it came down to it, I'd make my own, but I'm so sorry. I went to Chicago specifically, deep ditch so bad, but I got there after I already removed dairy from my life, and I was like so sad. I found out about grandma pizzas. Those look dope, but yeah, I don't eat them. Sorry, Rocky. The answer is I don't know.
You would at least tell why you're asking.
Yeah, why'd you ask?
So, like, a few weeks ago, I was in a social media conversation with somebody on Twitter, and they apparently, this rift kind of broke out where I didn't know before that different parts of the country cut their pizza differently. And so people from the East Coast were bagging on people from the Midwest because of them saying that Midwest people cut their pizza into squares.
Right.
And East Coast was saying that was totally wrong. Midwest was saying that slices is wrong. Some people from the South tried to get in, and they said that they didn't count, and that California was just kind of off by itself, doing whatever it likes. Apparently, we eat like fake food and stuff. But that's kind of what they were saying.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of curious out
funny.
there, like if that was like that too. They did squares or slices.
Maybe I'll start asking him. I used to be really into hockey when I was in California, so go Kings. But see, now here, you don't ask them what is the mascot for the Wild. They get so upset. It's like, is it a bear or a wolf? I still don't know, but it is like a heated argument. But I will have to bring up the pizza thing. I do enjoy seeing passive aggressive people sometimes not try to get heated. So, thanks for that question. Sorry, go for it, Sherry.
Just, Janine, you've lived in many different places, it sounds. Do you have friends from all those places?
Yeah, and it's also really interesting because me and Jordan, we both went to Cal Poly Pomona, and specifically for a lot of my friends who went to Cal Poly Pomona for a long time, like some of my closest friends, they all left, and then as soon as I left to New York City, they all moved back. So it is nice because like I've got friends out in Michigan, obviously now in New York. I've got a lot of Canada that I want to go see soon. But yeah, and then I lived there for a little while, so I feel like I've got little connections, and I'll let you keep talking about your different areas because I feel like we're connecting on the way that we see kind of acquaintances. But yeah, my definition of friends is a little different, so I want to hear from you first.
I guess friends for me are more trust and intimacy and being able to be who I am, good, bad, or indifferent. Acquaintances are much more superficial. We may enjoy some of the same things. We may have good conversations, but I probably wouldn't be as personal with them. They wouldn't know my background or all my stories. My friends know my stories. I guess that's the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I would agree with you totally on Sherry. I find myself in a interesting, I guess, place. I hadn't really thought about it much until the question was asked, and listening to you guys in the world of communication you live in, I find myself almost like in a interesting zone in that at this point in my life, is very few friends, I would say, that I could say that I actually have, using your description on Sherry. Those individuals that know me through my history are people that, as up until my young adult years, we maintain those friendships. And kind of like what you described, Janine, as a younger adult, I kind of had a similar lifestyle. I, worked in corporate America and traveled all over the place. And, it was one of those situations where life happened and we just kind of grew apart because you got so consumed in the demands of building this lifestyle. Like you said, you forget about the importance of maintaining that personal connection. And then you look up, 10, 15 years have passed, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, we're in different zones in terms of life. So I find that at this point, it's interesting that we're having this discussion because I just had the opportunity to reconnect with some very close friends that we all went to college together 40 years ago. And we reconnected just about maybe a month and a half ago. And it wasn't until that happened that I realized how much of a gap in life, a void, I should say, in some way, had taken place due to the fact that, I found myself kind of enveloped in a situation where life happened and everything else kind of got put to the side. So I find now, though these young women, we all actually were part of a sorority together. So, we truly grew together and, lived life together in those most precious times in our lives. And I find that now that we have reconnected, it's almost like getting your sister back, because as we're talking and reliving the memories, some of the things that I had just totally forgotten that we had experienced in college. They're sending me pictures that they had in their, garage and stuff. I'm like, where did you guys get this stuff from? So it's just bringing back a chapter of life that really has very fond memories, to the point I'm sharing it with my family and they're like looking at these pictures. Is that you? Just things, events, people. Unfortunately, some of the people that we knew then, I have found they're no longer with us. We're sharing a journey in a very way. So I would say, back to your question, Jordan, that journey of life, that I am on is kind of revealing an aspect of friendship that I had cut off due to career, everything else that was happening. And now just recently re-engaging with it, because all being what they are, my family is very much like my best friend. My aunt, my husband, my son, we're a very small family, and for that reason we're very close. But I find now that, just of late, I'm beginning to re-engage those friendships that had, broken off from years before that are, as fate has it, we're coming back into each other's lives. So it's an interesting question to think about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Deep.
That's really nice.
I don't know. When you first posted, I guess the notification that this particular conversation will come up, I sent it to a friend, and then we started talking about what that actually meant. And so it seemed like, yes, of course, I got you. I shot you out. And what we were kind of going through is we kind of came up with a group, kind of a tier of what are friends. And it kind of was like you have acquaintances who are people you literally just say hi to. And then it's like there's friends where you have something in common, and so that's why you connect with that person. Then there's a slightly smaller group of people where it's like they're friends, and these are people whose well-being you care about. And then we have this last group, and it's like there's this elite group, and those are the people that you call when you need to bury a body. And it's like that's how we define friends. It's just like you got 3 different types of groups of friends, and then pretty much everyone else is not cool. It's kind of like, I can see that. And do you? I'm sure you guys have probably heard the term fake friends. Do you guys believe that that's a thing or not?
What is
Fake
it?
friends?
Fake friends?
Fake friends.
Fake
Like
friends.
the Drake song.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that.
You guys want to fill me in on that?
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Are you in on fake friends or who Drake?
Oh, the definition.
I'm not
but
that
you
out.
Drake too.
Fake friends.
Yes.
Okay. I still don't understand. I thought you said Drake friends. That I have no idea.
Drake friends, fake friends. That is a good one. I guess fake friends are kind of. I'm trying. How would you even describe them? Basically, someone who not necessarily pretends to have an association with you, but something where it's a bond that falls through. So basically, something where you may believe that.
Oh, okay.
You may believe you have a relationship or connection with someone, but when there's pressure on it, it's almost like a weak chain. You put pressure on it, it breaks.
Okay.
Well,
You said that's a thing now.
Well, yeah. I think where it gains popularity is that through social media, you'll see people putting up these different messages and memes that are kind of behind, or I only want my people who are really supporting me, that sort of thing. Kind of like almost like you're filtering through who your true relationships and bonds are. It's a common thing. Like for example, now someone who's not a friend associate. I see her posting stories on it. It's not one to filter me or something that just officially. It's just like this is everyone who makes the cut and everyone does. It's a reoccurring thing. But I think that's kind of just where the whole. It's almost now it's kind of like a meme, to be honest. I feel like it's more of a meme than anything serious.
Rocky, are these friends, fake or otherwise, people you actually have face-to-face contact with, or are they people just through social media, only through social media?
Oh, I don't think that's ever even. I think that's a whole separate conversation. That might be.
Oh.
That's interesting. I feel like it's usually I think people are talking about people they have met in person.
Okay.
They just don't have a true connection with, but that probably could be part of it too.
Well, I do a little Facebook, very little, and I see people with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of connections. And I'm
Okay.
thinking, do you know all these people, or just connections that you've met on social media, and then I guess friendship develops? I find that hard. Someone who's never used match dating or anything like that.
I think I did that too with Facebook, at least. Kind of like what Jordan described, where like you added a lot of people, especially because of how it suggests people to you. So you kind of go down a rabbit hole, and you're just like, oh yeah, I remember him, or I remember her, or I remember, and then all of a sudden it's just. But these are not really people that you had any strong relationship with. You're kind of just like, oh, I wonder how that person's doing, or how that person's doing. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, do I really like know, or do I really even have a strong connection with like 1,500 or 1,000 people? And
Yeah.
it's like, no.
Yeah. Well, because like I was talking to Janine the other day, and I said something that I think is continuously true, where to get to the heart of the real concept, I think it's important to acknowledge that the way our minds work, there's a bunch of parallel conflicting concepts happening at the same time. And it's very difficult to say this is the way it is without saying, but I realize in this situation, this conflicts, and in that situation, this conflicts, and this, and like, it becomes very complex and hard to talk about, but there's different angles that are happening at the same time. And to give you an example, Sherry, I have never met Janine in person ever, but I've known of her since, I don't know, for like almost like 5-6 years. And I've tried to meet her for the last 5 years because we have a mutual friend that is very good friends with both of us, and we've never met each other. Then I actually talked to her for the first time during one of these events, and we ended up having a really long phone conversation on Wednesday, and she's really cool, but I've still never met her in person.
But I can see just with our conversation here how that can develop without seeing someone in person. Yeah, I don't have. This is only my second or third time doing a Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So so I'm getting more familiar with that and seeing how relationships can develop that way, and that you can really know each other very, very well without meeting face to face, by being interested in sharing and learning more, and then making connections. So I'm understanding that differently now.
Okay. And
yeah,
I think it's different for everybody. In my mind, text messaging is a fine way to get to know someone, as long as calling them is unavailable, video chatting is unavailable, and face-to-face is unavailable. Like if texting is the best we can do that. But, and like right now, no, face-to-face is not too accessible for you, Sherry, or for you, Janine, in terms of, and even for Rocky because of the quarantine. And so we're doing this. But this whole community discussion thing is typically outside of quarantine at a bookstore on couches. Because I think face-to-face is the best. But since we can't do that, we're here. And I think it's only a problem when I could have been face-to-face, but I chose to call you instead. Then I think it's gonna But along what Rocky was saying in terms of having a bunch of Facebook friends, I don't think that is really connected to the idea of fake friends, because like in my mind, I basically friend everybody who I've met in person. That's like the criteria for me to friend them. And it's basically like, okay, this is a way for me to find you in case something ever comes up that I think is relevant to you. Because sometimes like I'll meet like Rocky at somebody's birthday party and we'll talk for 2 hours about computer circuits. And he'll be like, yeah, he's a really cool guy that knows about computer circuits. And then 2 years later, I'll be like, oh, I have a question. But then I can go on Facebook if I know him and I can be like, yo, I remember us having this talk. Can you help me with this? And he's not my friend, but I know him and we had a good conversation and we like think okay of each other. So then I can like connect with him. I think the fake friend thing is more like people that do things to manipulate you, or they use you, or they talk behind your back. And that, I think when you dig into that more, a lot of the time, I would feel like it's non-malicious. I have this idea about fake friends where if you don't know yourself and you aren't an autonomous person, by default, you are a fake person. You're not yourself, so you are like a doppelganger of yourself. You're like a fake person. You can't act as yourself if you don't know yourself. And I think a lot of people don't know themselves, and they get caught up in situations where if you have strong values or morals, then you're able to stand on those. But just because someone hasn't reached the development stage in their life where they've established that this is what they stand for, these are their values, I can't fall back on that. I don't think it makes them a bad person, but it may lead them to doing bad things or not the best things because they don't understand like if you don't stand for something, you fall for it. And it's easy to get swayed by certain situations and pressures. And then I didn't think I was talking behind your back. I just thought I was talking about you, or this person pressured me to say this thing and but I think a lot of the fake friending comes from that kind of thing. But then there's also the true fake friending where people are just like out to use you and manipulate. That does happen. But I think much more often people, their vices and their weaknesses come out and they end up acting on those rather than like standing up for something. And I think we all do that, but it puts other people in bad places sometimes.
I'm like taking smorgasbords of all of your different commentaries about like Sherry talking about like friends that you've known since like grammar school. Like literally the other day I just tagged my one friend Olivia Posner for like this like trivia thing, and like it made me realize like how long, like man, I've always remembered that girl since we used to just like both eat Lucky Charms on the ground and like, okay, are we gonna go ice skating today, or are we doing ballerina stuff today? And granted, I have no idea if she's still into that kind of stuff, but what you're talking about gave me like nostalgia of like those types of friends. Rocky, I haven't ran into many like fake friends, but the more you're talking about it, like I have felt that sometimes when people kind of come in your life because they think, and this is like a crazy thing, like it wasn't even until Jordan was sharing last week, or I guess it was this week, it's been a crazy week. I think a lot of times when people meet us, maybe they think that we're going to elevate them in a way that being associated with us is going to do anything outside of that. But I think the biggest thing I've come into contact with recently is like the idea of like my intention when I connect with people. And I don't always know everyone's intention, or what I just got reminded of is like, you don't always know what people are bringing to the table either. So I guess with just like that as an understanding, like the more you're talking about it, I was like, okay, maybe I have been like exposed to that, but I don't think it really like reflects to me. Like what Jordan had kind of mentioned was like the idea of like awkwardness. Like it can't be awkward unless both people agree on it. Like it can't be a fake relationship unless I allow it to be fake. Otherwise I'm like, oh, you need help? Like you want someone to like follow you? What do? You want more artists? Okay, I'm gonna tag these artists. Here you go. Like, so I don't know. I will play around with that, because the fact that it is something that is within like media and it's something to be aware of. That's a fun little exercise I can take on, like, who is my friend? Just because they think by being associated, it'll, I don't know. That's the way I got it based on how it was talking about. But what I was going to talk about my friend groups is, one thing I got really close with this guy named Julian Kingston, and in a way that like I started reassociating people in New York City, specifically these last 2 days, is like closer to like my own siblings. So I'm like, I'm one of 5, and like my 3 older siblings, we talk, but not on a level like me and my little brother, who are like 2 years and 2 weeks apart. And so when I was reconnecting with Julian, like one of the things that he reminded me of is like, I'm his sister. Like, granted, we barely met each other. We like sat down in like a seminar together, and he's like, you're gonna be my sister. And literally since then, like when he flew out to LA, like I connected with my brother. Like my brother showed him all around like Hollywood and everything like that. Like I realized what really breaks down like my relationship of like friendships is similar to what you were saying, Rocky. Like the idea of like, why are you connecting? So like I specifically seek out people on Facebook who are authors, first-time authors, like self-publishing authors. And out of like all of those connections, I have one guy now who's like my friend. Granted, never met him, and we're in totally different time zones. And then podcast. I was specifically reaching out to people for podcasts. So I do love that you had brought up that we live in a generation where you can reach out to people around the entire world and expand in these areas that you want. And what Jordan was hitting on that I liked was realizing that you don't always have to have like those close friendships, but like what Sherry and also actually I think you were touching on again, Rocky, what you guys were kind of touching on that I really liked was the idea that even when you make those acquaintances, like how do you associate with them coming longer? Because the thing I'm realizing is like within these like few conversations, like I don't know, these might be people who stay in my life for a long time. But then after talking to Julian, realizing that there's some people right off the bat that will become like family friends. So if I were to base them off the groups of people that are in my life right now, I'm going to say that I have people who, like you were saying, like acquaintances that have a possibility of becoming like really good friends. I have family that regardless if we don't talk, they're always going to be my family. And then I have like family friends. So maybe what I can really start adjusting to is realizing like how many friends I have is just like acquaintances. Because this is actually getting deeper to like who I identify with, because something that Jordan had talked to me specifically about like the pursuit of happiness is realizing that I might have this like 1,000-gallon jug that maybe I'm just spreading myself very thin and I'm not emptying out my water. Sorry, this is like a longer conversation. There's like a 59-minute podcast about it. But what I'm really realizing in this conversation that's doubling on where my awareness is I might still be having like this over 2,000 jug of like friends, but at what level is my quality of it? Like I have a very vast quantity, but I'm actually having deeper conversations with you 4 right now than I've talked to most of the people that kind of like you were talking earlier, like I have a sorority, and I think out of all of them, I talked to maybe 4 out of like the over 350 sorority sisters that I had met while I was on campus, you know, like it is really interesting to really put that in perspective, because as I'm listening to all of you, I'm like, holy gosh, like what does friendship mean to me? Because yeah, Jordan's right. There's probably like a handful of people I'd actually call if I needed help right now. And then which one of those friends would actually answer. So this is great. Like, I'm like, oh, let me redefine what it means for me to actually call.
Oh yeah, I can definitely agree. It's definitely like enlightening. Like I feel like there's probably a whole bunch of messages that are going out tomorrow. Like you're actually not my friend anymore. Bye.
No, the point of this was not that I didn't set this up so that you could burn bridges. That's not the point of this.
Look what you've done, Jordan. You've made us socially distance ourselves even on social media.
I'm giving you guys the opportunity to put new tools in your tool belt, and if you want to use those tools for whatever you want, you go for it. But something about the water jug thing. Janine, I think we had a pretty big private discussion this week, and to kind of bring everybody into it, I'm going to use a different metaphor or a different idea that I learned from a friend of mine, Joe. And he talks about coins. And I think he got this from a book, but he was like explaining relationships to me in terms of coins. And so as a just a round number, let's say I have 100 coins, and these coins are units of intimate relationship. And I can put all 100 coins into my wife, and we have the most epic relationship ever, but then I have no relations with anybody else. and I can put 10 coins into 10 people, and then I have 10 good relationships. I could put 50 into one and then 10 into five. But at the end of the day, I only have so many coins, and I can take them back from people and put them into other people. But I cannot have over a certain amount of good relationships because I cannot mentally handle it. I cannot sustain it. I cannot maintain those relationships with the amount of time that I have. And for different people, it's different. Some people have 75 coins. Some people have 100 coins. Some people have 100, because some people are, they sleep less, or some people are able to get better relationships faster and stuff like that. But I think it's interesting. There's a concept that I've learned called a loose friendship or a loose relationship, which is somebody that I think I'm cool with. I like talking to them, or I like hanging out with them. But typically a loose friendship is one that's based on a particular activity or skill or hookup. But it can seem like a friendship. Like I go rock climbing all the time. And in the gym, there's a bunch of people that rock climb in the gym, and I talk to them and I hang out with them, and I spend hours and hours with them because I go to the gym all the time when I'm allowed to. But I don't really talk to them. I don't really talk to them at all outside of the gym. We don't hang out outside of the gym, and we're not there for each other unless it's like rock climbing related. And I would call those loose friendships, which are very tight within the idea of rock climbing. They're the people that I would trust literally with my life, because climbing is something where you like tie a rope to somebody else's life and you're keeping them up. But like, I don't think I would trust them to drive my car. And not that they're untrustworthy, it's just we're not there. And I have these like loose relationships that are almost like categorized, like these are my climbing friends, these are my study friends, these are my party friends. And then I have this other category, which is to me like getting closer to being a true friend, and those are general friends. And general friends, we may not do everything together, but if I'm going on a hike, or if I'm going to go read a book, like I talk to them about different things, and we connect in different ways, and they're exposed to my actual life, not just this one aspect of my life. And hopefully my general friends become good friends, and those good friends can become close friends. And I don't really believe in best friend, that term to me. I don't like that hierarchy thing where you like choose one and they're the best and nobody else can be of that level. Sometimes it happens like that, but I don't like to be like playing some like reality show where at the end of the episode somebody gets eliminated and now you're my best friend and you're out. Like that's always been bad to me, so I've tried to stay away from that term. And if somebody wants to call me their best friend, go for it. But I'm trying to get close friends. And then one other thing that I do is called an old friend. And an old friend is one where not necessarily like an old person, but like it feels like the relationship is going to last my entire life, whether or not I talk to them all the time or I see them once every 10 years. There's a certain type of relationship that I have that feels like this person is just now a part of my life. Like I'm a friend.
Oh.
Good morning.
What
You
happened?
You jumped.
I don't know. I got kicked out of my own meeting.
Was it something you said, Jordan?
I don't know. I'll have to ask the administrator.
Jordan's friends are watching, okay?
I know. Zoom wants to be your best friend, Jordan. Zoom is upset.
That's okay. But did you guys hear what I said about old friends?
I missed old friends.
Okay, so we had like close friends, and then I got away from best friends, and then old friends are these people that I meet, and even if I only hang out with them once every 10 years or something like that, I always feel like I can pick up right where I left off. I never feel like I need to hang out with them to maintain the relationship, and I just have this strange confidence that they're always going to be my friend, and they're always going to be some version of themselves. I think some people, like I was saying with fake people, not necessarily being fake is bad. We are all in my mind born fake, because when you're born you don't know who you are, and it's your job to find out who you are, I think. It's happening again.
I don't know about it.
Sides again.
I know, right? Oh, you're back, Jordan?
No,
Oh,
there he
oh,
is.
there he is. Okay. You're working, Jordan. We can see you.
Okay. I switched my internet connection to a different one. So hopefully that works.
Okay.
But like these old friends, they're people that are just a part of my life, and I feel like if they were an apple tree when I left, when I come back, it might be they might have different branches, they might have had something cut off, it might not be fruit time, but they're still gonna be apple trees, and I can be like, yo, apple tree, what's up? And they're gonna be like, apples. I'm not gonna come back and there's gonna be pomegranates on that tree. They're, to me,
Yeah.
an old friend is very themselves when I meet them, and I feel like they're gonna just grow as themselves, and not like, sometimes I meet people and then I see them 5 years later and I'm like, whoa, you are technically the same person, but you're very different. And not like that's a good or bad thing, but then I have to meet you all over again. So
That's interesting.
I don't
Can
know
I
if that's
give
ever
2
happened to you
examples?
guys. Huh?
Can I give 2 examples?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
So my best friend from high school, literally, like, this girl, like, we started out as enemies just because I was super competitive in cross country and track, and she was allowed to do not only hurdles but long distance, and I wasn't. But now, like, we just became like the best of friends, and she ended up dating my little brother, and it was the most awkward thing that I was like, Chelsea, I just can't talk to you right now. Like, this is like a really weird thing for me. And same thing with my brother. I'm like, please don't tell me about Chelsea right now, just because, like, it was almost like I knew that they weren't gonna be together. Like, just the way they would talk about each other outside of the relationship, I'm like, you guys have a lot of things to work out, and I can't help you. So after everything was said and done, she ended up marrying this other guy that we went to high school with. I ended up missing my college graduation to be her best, like, with what was it called? Bridesmaid, or sorry, maid of honor. Like, it was so worth it. And I was just like, you know what? In the most non-awkward way, so glad you ended up my brother. And like, both of them are in like very happy relationships. She's still married, but it was like literally like what Jordan was saying. Like, I had no idea what had her date my brother. Like, I was like, you guys totally different. Don't know what's going on. But afterward, just like seeing who she was still an apple tree. And then same thing literally yesterday. And I was telling Jordan this last, I forgot when it was, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, where I had ended a relationship with someone because I moved to New York City. He didn't believe in doing long distance relationships. So literally, I got on the plane in a relationship. I landed in New York single. And yesterday was his birthday, and me and my partner are watching the moon, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I turned to him, it's Justin's birthday. I'm like, is it okay if I text him? He's like, yeah. So like, it was interesting because, again, like, this is a relationship that, like, I really thought that this guy, for the longest time, like, maybe this could be the one, but us not being together because we didn't do long distance relationships, 4 years later, we don't always talk, but we still send those little messages to let each other know that we're thinking about each other, in the sense that, like, we're both actually really happy for one another. So I love that example about, like, knowing that it's okay to have those friendships that are old friendships, because yeah, you guys are going to probably change, but you can always, like,
Oh no, you froze.
Avenger syndrome.
Well, if she starts disappearing, like, off to the side. Oh no.
She'll come back.
Nobody's. Don't snap your fingers.
Yeah. I think of friendships in a lot of different ways, and it's cool. Like, I'm always grateful when other people share what's going on inside their heads as like their ideas, how they construct it, or even if they're like, oh, I never thought about that. And so, like,
What happened to me?
I don't know if this ever came up as an idea to you guys, but ever since I was a little kid,
Oops.
she'll be back. Yeah, there she is. Janine. Hello, Janine. Hello.
Ah.
Look at her face.
Oh no!
Are you back, Janine?
Yes, I think I'm back. Is Jordan back?
So,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. It's so funny though, because I thought you guys all Hey,
That's a noise.
well, like,
Getting it like piece by piece.
oh, and I'm connected. Oh,
On a hard wire, so just plug that little Ethernet cable in.
Well, while
okay, are you guys all good?
Yes.
there.
Okay,
Okay, we hear you
perfect.
now. You're in real
I
time.
again.
Sorry, it's actually really interesting. There's
Dang it.
a bunch of fireworks going on right out now, so I don't even know what today is.
Oh yeah, like the protest stuff. I think people somehow found a lot of fireworks, and ever since it's been riot season, there's been fireworks going on all the time in Los Angeles at least. And I was like, where did you get all these? You just had them just ready or whatever?
We've had
Yeah,
it here in my neighborhood also. It's interesting.
It's all over.
It's not the explosion fireworks, it's the bang. It's the M, what are they called? M somethings?
Yeah.
Yes.
Keep them away from your kids because they'll blow their hands off.
Yes.
Fireworks. Yep.
Yes.
I remember those. But
Yes.
Janine, I kind of forgot where you froze, but I feel like you didn't finish what you were saying.
Oh, okay. Well, with brevity, like similar to you saying, like old friends, like even with like relationships that sometimes people may feel aren't supposed to last after. It's like on like small casualty levels of like where relationships end. I don't know where you guys heard, but when I moved to New York City, literally the day before I flew, I was in a relationship, and then I landed in New York City and I was single. And for the last like 4 years, it was kind of like a complicated thing where it was like, we didn't know if we were going to remain as friends, because obviously we're in like an intimate relationship, but it was really nice that we both had like stuck to our guns of saying like, even if we're not going to be in a relationship, we can have a friendship when we both are like on a more emotionally like supported level. And so yesterday was actually his birthday, and like when I was actually sitting with my partner and we're watching the moonrise, I said, oh my gosh, it's Justin's birthday. I'm like, is it okay if I text him? Like, oh yeah. So I texted him, and it was one of those moments where you literally feel like we had such like a good friendship that I'm glad randomly reach out to each other in moments where you are thinking about each other. So I like that you had mentioned that, Jordan, about the idea of like apple trees being apple trees. And then they might just have different branches, because at least in those types of like moments of realizing like you could have easily had one of those situations where, Rocky, it could have been like a fake friend where it's like, oh, you were so close, but all of a sudden now you're in a relationship, so I can't be your friend, versus like, hey, like next time you're actually in this town, like I'd actually want to meet that stupid guy you're dating. So I think it's really, it's interesting to see how, at least with what you had like a definition of like old friend, it is something that I think I overlook sometimes, but then you realize how you can grow as a person, that your general reason you guys were together, or the general reason you guys became friends, could grow into something else. Because I think that's the great thing about friendship too, is when you realize that even if a friendship changes, you've also changed. Like I don't know, I think that's, you guys related to like bands or celebrities that you've ever like seen as like an idol, and then all of a sudden they change their whole demeanor, and people are like, oh, they've changed too much, like they're no longer the reason that I liked them. But I feel like as a person who has gone from like I don't know, very like I'm trying to think of like words of like what I used to do, but I don't think I do a lot of things that I still do. Like now I meditate, I do yoga, I, I do like spiritual retreats. Like that stuff in college, I would have probably thought was very like I'd hope people would see it as I'm still the same apple tree. I just have a bunch of different branches that I wasn't aware that I wanted to have grow. But yeah, so that was even longer than what I thought. So I apologize.
Oh, it's interesting.
Lightning.
Yeah, thank you for re-explaining, because I know we're having some technical difficulties. I know I had some earlier, so thank you. I think there's a lot of different types of friends, and I was saying there's this concept that I've always had since I was a little kid about friends. I just, little kids have like the little kid thoughts, but it's been a consistent one in my mind ever since I was small. And a friendship is a type of relationship, and every type of relationship ends in the word ship. And in my mind, a relationship was a type of boat that you built with somebody so that you could sail through life together. And there's different types of boats you can build, and then one is a friendship, and one is a partnership, and one is a relationship and stuff. But depending on how you build this boat, it can last a long time. It can have potential to weather storms, or it can fall apart and sink. Or it can accommodate lots of people, because sometimes you have like a group of friends. So sometimes you all come together and build this big boat that 10 people can be on. But then when 5 of them go to college, now the boat is too complicated to run with only 5 people left. So we got to abandon ship sometimes. And so I've always thought of it in terms of like shipbuilding.
Interesting.
And so I don't know if that's something that is something that is helpful to other people, but I think it's been helpful to me in terms of.
Yeah, you need some t-shirts with that.
Yeah. How big is our boat?
And then like you got to work on it, and sometimes you run on some rocky terrain and there's a hole and you guys got to plug it, and if you don't, have you ever had something like with a friend and something happened and it wasn't necessarily like someone did something awful, but you guys kind of got off track, and then you can just see yourself kind of like drifting more off track because you're not dealing with that thing that happened. And you guys could totally patch it, but like the more time that happens, it's like the more water gets into the hole. And so like on top of the fact you're gonna have to patch, you're gonna have to get all this water out. And so I don't know, it's been a good metaphor for me.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, because sometimes well, I think the big one that everyone goes through at some point, well, not everyone, most people go through, is like the difference between your high school friends, your college friends, and then wherever you wind up creating your career. And usually, so when you're in high school, most of the time, many parents will say like, "Hey, these aren't going to be your friends for the rest of your life. Those will be your friends in college." And then you go to your friends in college, and in many cases, the same thing winds up happening, because either one, you guys are all from different places, so you have to go back, or two, you wind up going somewhere for your career. And so a lot of people, I feel like, have that situation where you have that evolution of there's in many cases will at some point connecting back with those childhood friends that you haven't seen for forever, or the people in college that do decide to move away and do all their unique things and live their lives. So, and like what you're saying, the more time that passes, the less branches you have to reconnect, because it'll be kind of like, well, I know less about what's going on with your life. And suppose especially when they go really different directions, to where if you're like, hey, so I became a professional baseball player and you became an astronaut, we don't have a whole lot to intersect.
Yeah.
Speaking of the fireworks.
Yeah, it's firework time here. But yeah, I could definitely. Go ahead.
No, I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, like, I've gone through that situation where you have those friends that you try to reconnect with back later, and there may be some hurdles. Some will go smoothly, and I just like what you guys were mentioning, where kind of those were the strongest ones, and we pick up right where we left off and kept going. But other ones that I thought were very strong, you try to reconnect, and it's awkward, and there is like big kind of pause where it's like, maybe we don't have anything in common, and you go your own separate ways.
But I think you often find, especially the older you get, and those opportunities to reconnect come into your life. It helps to define what the essence of the relationship or friendship was like, or what it was based on in the first place. Because I think when you reconnect with those relationships from years past, if you can reconnect and it seems organic or natural, it was about the soul of humanity in terms of what brought you together, versus no matter how close you thought you may have been, the closeness might have been predicated on something a little bit more superficial. It may have been like if it was in college, based on you being the same majors, okay, and your studies connecting or whatever. But for me, I find that again at this stage in life, when I do have the opportunity to reconnect with someone from years past, it puts me in a frame of mind to think back, well, what was our original friendship really based on how that encounter goes. I mean, like I have one of my what I would have called one of my closest friends through high school, through college, through my young adult years. Off and on, we have reconnected over the years, and we seem, or I seem, very disconnected from her, because it is obvious that the things that we were both into back then, she still is very much into now. And I can see where I have kind of matured and grown beyond that in terms of my perspective to things that are important to me.
Okay.
So when we connect, the conversation for me is not fulfilling, because it's based on something from the past, and it lets me know our friendship at that time was based on something a little bit different than what I would render being important now. Like in the world that I work in, dealing with people's children in sports, I have probably some of the most not intimate friendships, but very close friendships with other moms that, like you guys described, we don't get to see or meet each other, but we connect continuously based on our motherhood journey, if you follow me. And with where I have traveled in life, I have come to cherish that. I see that, I look at that with reverence. So when I meet another mom that has the same reverence, we connect automatically. So I kind of consider that more spiritual now, meaning that my friendships, relationships, whatever however you want to term it, is based more on a core spirituality as it relates to the people that are important to us. Okay. Like cousins, for example.
True. Do you have any friends that you feel like you don't have anything in common with? Like you consider them a gay, really close, really strong friend, but you're not like that don't really share any common interests, common likes, things like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most of my best friends, the people that I really connect with, like they don't do any of the things that I like doing on a daily basis. And it's not because they're against it or they hate it. They're just different people. And I think the thing that, in terms of like actual good relationships, I think this is like a quality of maturity. But I think that there is a serious merit to understanding that other people are allowed to do whatever they want in their life, and almost like the only thing you should step up for is if what they're doing is getting in the way of someone else's ability to do that, or if you have had a relationship with them to the point where you guys have discussed their goals and they're doing something that's intentionally harming their goals or their well-being, and like maybe they don't know that they're doing that, so to talk to them. But I feel when typically somebody has the ability to understand me and the respect to allow me to be a human, we become friends. And even if they have everything not in common with me, if they can maintain those two things, like if I can like talk to them openly and they can respect me as a person, and also that when I talk to them, it's not constantly confusing. Like some people, when I talk to them, our cultures are so different, or our knowledge is so different the way that I think of everything in terms of metaphors and bicycles, like they don't understand how bicycle gears work and they're not interested in that. Sometimes we don't connect, but like most of the people I know, we connect very harshly just because I feel we respect the humanity of each other, and we like the goodness we see in each other, not necessarily that there's a commonality, unless you're talking about goodness in general as a commonality.
Okay.
Think about
Who came out was kind of remote.
Interesting. You should tell me.
Well, the reason why I asked that was because I was thinking the person who would qualify as my best friend is someone like that, where we virtually have nothing in common in terms of anything that we like. The stuff, our conversations most of the time are checking in on each other's lives, but there's not really any shared like, oh yeah, I did that too, or oh yeah, that's so. It's more about kind of exchanging stuff, and in fact, many times it's a kind of a process of understanding, like, why are you into this stuff? Like, well, what is it what's the motivation? What do you get out of it? And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm understanding. And I feel like maybe that's one part of it that we get out of it, because you learn something new out of the experience. And consistently, it's one where we constantly will kind of not necessarily fall out, but there'll be major gaps in time where it's like we're talking every day for a week, and then we may go 6 to 7 months where we're not talking. And it's more like, it's kind of like, I think it's one of those situations where we're letting life kind of take over, and it just you get into one of those grinds where you're constantly going to work every day, coming home, fall asleep, wake up, go to the gym, go to work, that sort of cycle. And then eventually I'll just kind of something in either my mind or his mind would just kind of think of it and say, hey, been too long, I need to check in. And so that's kind of like what our relationship has been like. And I was kind of wondering, is that weird for someone to have a really tight friendship with someone that they don't really have anything? And it's funny because when we go somewhere and we're together, people will point it out. Like somebody I knew from probably middle school. So it's been what 10? No, not 10 years. So 15, 16, 17 years that we've known each other, and we had different friends in high school, different groups, or I guess you can call them cliques or whatever, that we were a part of. And ever since then, the various people that we've come across are like so different. And it's funny because even like our appearances and stuff are very odd. Sometimes people will assume that we're related, although, well, Jordan has met me, but Janine is not. So I'm maybe 5'1", like in terms of my height. This guy is 6. Now he's 6'4", and he's a beanpole. And so it's so odd when we're out in public. People are just kind of like you guys, you guys look like a tag team of some sort. Like it's kind of like somebody was trying to create cartoons and put these two people together. Something I have a comic book, but I mean, so far it's worked out. So yes.
Yeah, I think very strongly that shared values are a much stronger criteria for good relationships than shared activities. And you can exemplify a value in one of many activities, in any activity.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's this idea I have about appreciation, where if I'm a cyclist, if I ride bicycles to an extreme extent, like I ride like 200 miles in a day. If you are not a type of person that exercises, it's hard for you to understand what that is as an undertaking. And if you're a cyclist that has ridden a lot or has tried to ride a lot, you can be like, wow, that's hard, that's cool. But you don't have to be a cyclist in order to understand that. I feel like in terms of cycling, to be able to appreciate that, as long as you've done any exercise to a high level or pushed yourself physically, even if you're like a tennis player or something, you could be like, wow, like I don't cycle, but like, dude, I get the physical, the reason you'd push yourself, the reason you go through this pain, the reason you manage these injuries and get back on the bike. And I can have a really good conversation with somebody as an athlete, even though I'm a cyclist, they're a tennis player, there's a volleyball player over there. And we can all talk about, well, in my sport, we do it like this, and be like, oh, yeah. You know that feeling like when you think you're going to fall, or like you think it's not going to go right, but then you like, no, I'm going to make this right. And then it forces it to be good. And then you're like, yeah. And like, it doesn't matter what sport you're in. Like, everybody experiences certain general things within their sport. And I think the same with values, where it doesn't matter what kind of engineer you are, or if you care anything about science, or if you meditate, or if you do this or that. Like, we can talk about our different experiences, but in the vein of our shared values. And I can appreciate you based on your values, based on your beliefs, and based on your experiences, even though they may seem very different when you look at the superficial details. So.
Yeah, I think that's a very appropriate analogy, because this young man that Rocky's describing, when I think about their relationship over the years, because we've watched Ramon, the two of them, grow up, but despite their maturity taking different paths, Ramon has he's like the salt of the earth, you know. I mean, he can annoy you to all ends and you're ready to just scream. But he's just as sweet as he can be, and he has an appreciation for humanity. And I think for Rocky and for Ramon, that type of value system, like you just named, is probably what keeps them connected. Because he wouldn't literally would not hurt an ant or a flea, and Rocky's the same way. So for as different as you guys are, I think that common thread, that spiritual connection that I referred to for you guys, is that appreciation for humanity.
Right. Yeah.
What about the term soulmates? Do you guys think soulmates are different than friends?
I don't really believe in soulmates. I don't know. I do think it's very different. And to add on to that, similar to like how the friendship / I don't know how soulmates, because I've also heard that a term, I don't know if you guys have heard this, the twin flames. I guess I don't really understand the twin flames, so I can't really explain it. Just something like, oh, have you found yours? I'm like, I don't know what that is. I think it also comes to like the level that you guys are able to meet up at in each situation. So I'm someone that I think in most of my conversations, especially when I see a friend or someone that I know, I'm very high energy, which I realized specifically during quarantine can sometimes feel exhausting for people who aren't ready for that. I know I'm putting myself out there, but realizing that sometimes even if you guys don't have similar I guess hobbies or topics like you guys are talking about, like values, and then also being able to like accept and appreciate people's energy. So does anybody else have anything about the soulmate thing? I personally don't know if I have ever seen it, so I can't really talk on it.
Well, you're thinking about the twin flames. I have heard the term.
Have you heard of that term?
Yes. Yeah. One specific person has mentioned it to me, and I can't say that I know what it is for sure. I only know it as she described it to me. And she kind of described it as though kind of it being analogous to like doppelgangers, but personality-wise. So that basically that there were these other, specifically another person, but in some cases even other people out in the world who are like your perfect matches. And not necessarily like romantically, but just in terms of personality. I guess it's like a more, a fancier way of saying kindred spirits, basically. That's the way she described it to me, so that could be totally wrong.
Yeah, well, words, they don't really have no meaning aside from the meaning we put on them. But like
I just need to share that I've really, really enjoyed this conversation tonight. I'm on kind of the 10 o'clock where I am, and I'm kind of losing my energy. So I want to just say goodnight. But I really look forward to connecting again with all of you. Okay?
Thanks for stopping by,
Yeah.
Cher.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We love
I'll
you.
try to
Thank
start
you.
on time next time, but thank you for
Oh.
coming.
That's fine. That's fine. Take care.
Okay.
Right.
Nice.
Molly a hug for us.
Will do. Will do.
Bye.
Have fun, Miss Chi-Town.
But like a twin flame to me is more like a star-crossed lover, where if you're going to bring like ideas of soulmates and twin flames into this, I think with relationships, love is an idea that is kind of tied up in there. And there's different types of love. I think friendships do involve love. Like I love my friends. If I'm going to call you my friend, like I have no problem saying I love you in public. And it's not like I want to sleep with you and make babies with you or whatever, but like I care about you, and I like have literal feelings of care. Like some molecule combination is released and I have emotions that manifest in reality that make me want to check up on you and see if you're okay and see that you're happy and tell you when you're acting crazy and like help you grow. And with like twin flames, I think because everybody's on their path, right? And you know, we could be doing this with our paths and stuff, whatever. But I think if two people happen to meet, especially if they're doing this or they're on different lines and stuff like that, if two people happen to physically meet in reality when their lines are here, then I think you have this moment where you like can fall in love or you can be very passionately connected to this person. But I think almost a lot of the time with the twin flame idea, it's something that's not always good, because if I meet you here and then in my mind I'm like, this is my person, but then as time moves on we naturally do this, but I keep that idea that you're my person, we can start destroying each other. But there's this memory of a good idea, or there's certain things like that. I think twin flames are people that seem like they're good for each other, or for a small period of time they're good for each other, or they're very, very perfect for each other except for one thing. And everything that I've seen about a twin flame is a very like beware kind of thing. And then with soulmates, I think that's a good term. I think that very harshly, depending on who you're talking to, depends on what that person thinks a soul is, or if a person thinks a soul is real. But a soulmate to me is along the lines of an old friend, but on a higher level. And this could be like your significant other. I would call, if I were to get married to somebody, they would at least be an old friend, someone who I think I could rely on to be that apple tree or tomato plant or whatever. And like I can trust them to be that, and I can go on a business trip and come back and they're the same. But on this higher level, then I don't want to see my wife once every 10 years, hopefully. I think with a soulmate, I think it's this it's like an old friend, but you have this connection that's more constant. So, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting vibe for sure. Where it's somebody that I guess you're both confident in your knowing of the other person, basically. So that sounds like no shock on the wedding is coming for you, Jordan. Where you just meet somebody in Vegas over a weekend.
Well, because it's kind of hard to like talk in a straight path with this, because like talking to Janine this week, like normally it takes a while for somebody to become a friend of mine, and it's this like whole process because I'm complicated. And it like there's this feeling where when I'm like talking to somebody or dealing with them, that they're somebody that I want to have in my life. And I think a lot of times this can get confused. A lot of people, if they don't sit and think about it, this gets very confusing, especially with like if you're interested in that orientation of person, like, oh, I'm attracted to this person. And like I am attracted to Janine, but not in like a relationship way. I'm attracted, like I want her to be my friend because I've talked to her, and the way she talks, like I don't agree with everything she says. I don't believe everything she says is true, but the way she talks is like it's her. And when you talk to certain people, they're open and they're them. And you don't always get the actual person from the person. Like a lot of times I talk to people outside and it's apparent to me that they're not being fully open. They're not giving me themselves. And when people do give me themselves and their values within a certain range, like match up with mine, their goals within a certain range match up with mine. I'm not saying they have to want to be engineers and philosophers and stuff, but like, I don't really vibe with people who like to go and seek consent by putting people under the influence of drugs. Like that's something that's kind of like, what did you say? And so like the more I talk to people and the more they open up, I feel like I get green flags or red flags. And it's interesting sometimes where I feel like there's like an intuition that tells you that there's something here and you should nurture it, or like, hey, maybe there's something here to be concerned about. And then there's also the emotions where like, but like, oh, you should be concerned, but this person is also really attractive. And then you're like, But yeah, I think soulmates are real. I don't think I don't think there's only one. I don't, in any case with any level of relationship, I've never thought ever that there's only one. That's always been like an absurd notion to me, where that's super terrible. Like, because if there's only one, what are the chances I'm going to find that person? And then, and then on top of that, what are the chances I'm not going to mess it up? Like I'm going to find them at the right time in my life, and we're both going to be stable and able to be, we're both going to be single and able to be in a relationship, and then it's going to work great. And then like, that's so ridiculous. Like to extrapolate that into like, well, how does this play into reality? Like that almost by default is nonsense, in my mind. And I think people are your soulmate at different parts in times in their life, and you are other people's soulmate at different times in your life, which I would call more a twin flame. But when, like, if you mess up, if you get married and then you get divorced, like that doesn't mean you can't get married again these days, lucky for us. But I think it's a concept. It's a type of person that you vibe really well with, and you allow each other to be yourselves, and you can still have a good relationship without changing who you are, changing who they are for the other person. Like I am Janine's friend, and I get her to change, but it's because I know her and I've talked to her, and I know something about her goals and her life, and I just call her out on all the dumb stuff that she does that's bad for her. And she changes I influence her to change in a way to help her grow as a person, and she does the same for me. I don't influence her to change in a way to accommodate me. And so like I've always believed like you should try to change people, but because everybody should be growing and changing. But it's more like, yo, Janine, that was a really mean thing you said to Albert. And then Janine's like, what are you talking about? And then it's like, well, when you said this and this and this, it kind of means this, or this is what I took it to mean. And she's like, oh, that's not what I thought it meant. And it's like, well, what did you think? And then we talk about it, and then that's a growing point. But it's not like, Janine, I don't know, you're inconveniencing me and you need to stop that, or we're not going to be friends anymore. Like that kind of strict changing is like, you should dump me as a friend if I do that to you. But yeah, that's my kind of thoughts on soulmates.
Oh no.
Okay. Well, it is getting kind of late. This was intended to be an hour, and it's turned into 2.5 hours.
Before we end it, though, I want to hear Rocky's point. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying I'm going to start winding down. I'm not saying it's over.
Okay. I know. I should go too, but I actually want to hear Rocky's point on this too. Thanks for letting us know. It makes makes me feel good that you are time conscious.
Okay. Rocky, go ahead.
Oh yeah,
If
definitely.
you'd
What
be
is
so
it?
kind.
10:30 or 31? You know?
Time.
Oh, I guess what about the soulmates? Well, one huge thing in everyone that needs to be looking for their multiple soulmates kind of simultaneously, and that people get trapped into thinking that there's one out there. Me personally, I could see where it's not so much just something about romance, but there's a group of people that you do click with. How do you find those people? Where do they come from? I feel like that's kind of the big mystery. I feel like that if there's any sort of that's the one app that nobody has figured out how to create yet. Where it's just like these are the perfect people for you. Go find these people.
Let's see.
And it's like what us here in people here we're in Southern California and you're in Minnesota. So randomly it'll flag and say like, oh, your soulmates are in northern Russia right now in some small little village. You're just like, oh.
Drive right over there.
You're just like, okay, whatever. I guess we'll meet on Skype. But I feel like as a whole, it really is kind of a journey because there's some people that you will meet who like what you were mentioning do help you grow and evolve. Like people who are kind of who are catalysts for you, and that you like through certain people that you meet that on to other experiences you'll have, as well as you need like support groups. Most people need a support group to help get them where they're going, whether it's their family, their loved ones, especially when you face like tough times, is to help you evolve and grow. And I feel like that's kind of the core reason for having friends and having people you care about, especially because you want to help them and they help you. For me, the big difference is that like your family are just people kind of like you're stuck with. It's just kind of like, hey, like we just roll the dice, roll the dice, and here you are. But I mean, actually, that's a good example. Look at us because we consider our family to be kind of very small, but in reality, we actually have a very I mean, and we're not we're Louisiana, Chicago, Boston, Atlanta, Georgia. So we're all over. We have somebody in all the territories, kind of every region of the country. But even within those groups, I would say it's a very small amount of people within each of those regions that we connect with because those are the people that's like, yeah, just because we share the same genetic pool that like there's certain people we actually vibe with, and it's like, hey, I know that when you need something or when you need help, I'm here for you, and likewise. And we've kind of invested that time. Whereas on the opposite side, what's typically considered the family friend, I'd say we have a huge pool of those. In terms of the people that we have directly included into our family who we have no real connection or association with other than just needing them somewhere. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see where the whole the vibe of soulmates comes from. Just because out of 7 billion people, everybody's not going to be totally original and just say, hey, like there's only one person for you out of those 7 billion. So if you screw it up, you're out of luck. It's like, hey, you should have gone off. That's where your soulmate was, and you missed it.
Got off at the wrong stop.
Although sometimes they may feel.
No, it sounds like a Rick and Morty episode. Sounds pretty good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've always thought because there's that idea oh yeah, how do I find my soulmate? And to me, people have asked me this in a locker room. I've been at 24 Hour Fitness and people have asked me where do you go to get girls? And I'm like, hello.
The locker room.
Yeah, I don't know. People ask me questions, but it's to me, if I want to find my soulmate, if I want to find someone that's good for me, not just someone who is attractive, all I got to do is find out who I am and then go out in the world and be me as hard as possible. And then then everybody that vibes with me will just show up in my life. And all the people that don't vibe with me, they won't be able to take it. And if I'm doing stuff that's not really me, I'm going to end up associating with people that are not really good for me. That's what I've always thought. And so like, I don't club. I don't really party or listen to music and cuss and grind on people, which is some people's thing. Some people love to do that. But I have no business finding a partner in the club because I go to the club maybe once every 10 years and I hate it. I have a business finding a partner like on a rock climbing trip or at the library, because those are the places I'm always at and the places I like to be. And I want a partner maybe that wants to kind of do the same stuff that I do or shares some things that I do. So why don't I find her or him or whatever in the type of world that I'm in? Why do I have to pull them out from some other universe and then teach them my language and teach them my customs and understand, which is fine. If that happens, that's fine. But I think I've never like tried to get a girlfriend. I've never been like, that one, she's cute, let me go spit game at her. I've never been like that. I've been more like, I'm gonna go ride bicycles. And then somebody's like, can I ride bikes with you? And it's like, do you have a bike? All right, let's go ride bikes. And then like, we'll talk and then we'll get to know each other and be like, you're pretty cool. And it's like, would you like to go eat? And then we go eat. And then I usually don't even know we're dating. And it'll go on for a month or two, and then something will happen, and then I'll be like, oh, like in my mind, I'll be like, I can see how we've gotten to this. And then I'll be like, do I like this person romantically? And then I'll be like, all right. But I'm never like, I tried Tumblr to figure out, no, Tinder. Tumblr is a blogging website. To like try to understand, I never understood that kind of stuff. But I've always thought you just do stuff you like and then you get surrounded by people that are kind of for you.
I agree.
So, yeah. Did you guys have any other thoughts to share? I feel like every time somebody opens their mouth.
I don't know, Jordan. You're. It's like, wait, you go? No, wait, no, you go. Me, with the club is that you can't like talk in the club. So then there is no actual way for you to vibe with someone because of the atmosphere. Like there's so many people. It's most of the ones I go to are so loud you can't actually have that sort of interaction.
Yeah, for me personally, I can agree with that. I think some people, since that's their regular activity, they know how to act in there, and they like, I can't listen to somebody while there's loud music playing. It's hard for me. But if you do that every Saturday, you probably know how to listen to people in loud places, and like you're comfortable with that, and you want somebody that can do that too, because that's what you're going to do next Saturday. But that's just not.
Or it just may be that their definition of listening differs from yours.
Yeah.
There could be that too. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
I'm not yelling. This is how we've always talked.
That is very true.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you guys for sharing. Like, there's a lot of different ideas floating around today, and like even just the different perspectives and how we look at friends differently. I wanted to have this because a lot of times I like sit and think about stuff, and friends is something I think about a lot. And I kind of wanted to like self-check to see if I was like being a butthead towards people. But I'd like get, how do other people look at it? Let me not just live in an asylum. But thank you guys for sharing your opinions and your thoughts. I really do appreciate that. And Rocky, you jumped ahead of the gun a little bit, but I really hope this kind of sparks conversation with other people. I think when you think about something, when you have a concept, when you're aware that something is a concept, it really helps you navigate through the world, because now, like if you didn't know cars were a thing and you were riding your bicycle from California to New York, and then you found out cars were a thing, like that'd be very helpful. So please share if it's something that you find an opportunity to do so. But yeah, thank you guys. This is a once a month thing. Herd is something that's happening next Thursday, 6 p.m. I am not going to go on Zoom twice, so I should be able to do it on time. And yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you guys for everything. Like, even, well, I mean, 'cause, with the different groups, you kind of have a fluctuation on how many people come forward from so many different perspectives. Like in terms of learning and kind of grabbing little bits of information from everyone. Like I said earlier, I feel like I need to go my counselor. Hey, I've had to reevaluate, and you're not making the cut. So I'm sorry, but we're not friends. So
Don't do that.
I'm just going through like
Don't do that.
blocking out massive groups of people. Yeah, you cannot be my friend anymore.
You're not an old friend. You're not an acquaintance.
Yeah.
I just found out that you might be fake.
You have been weighed and measured, and you have been found wanting. No, don't.
I am judging you.
No, I just heard the dialogue as well. You know, like I said when we opened, very refreshing to hear. You know, other perspectives. You know, I find it very intriguing, especially with this topic, to hear. You know, the challenges. You know, the idea of cultivating relationships for your generation is so different than when I was your age. You know, because of the digital presence. So, you know, it just, you know, it's one of those things, as they say, makes you go, you know, and evaluate. So I really enjoyed the discussion. And as always, I learned something, I take something away that I didn't have before. And so that's what makes it all rewarding.
Yeah, man, I guess seeing the whole spectrum of how you can have a friend that's in Miami, Florida, are really tight. Like you guys vibe really well, and there's a lot of synergy there, and that can be something that's really strong today. Versus to the opposite extreme, one of my friends, he's friends with Will Smith, the actor, because he follows his page, and he got one like reply through one of his messages, and that has him sold that they're friends. And so the rest of our friends always tell him like, hey man, that's that's not your friend. Like he's just being nice, and you don't know the guy. Like you don't know what his favorite color is. Not, but he is so convinced.
Yeah,
A lot of
how often we realize we might just associate with, like Jordan was saying, like, oh, like what are my thoughts about this? So like when you walk out of like what your own thoughts are that always have you being right, and you actually hear other people's perspectives, even if it's just slightly different or it's completely like other, like I didn't even think about certain terminologies of like old friends or fake friends, or like the idea of like what is an acquaintance. Like I love these conversations because it really has me kind of reevaluate how I think. Because as soon as I say it, I'm like, do I actually still believe that? Like, it is really interesting. So I really come away from these conversations more aware of how I think, how I share, and what other people who have completely different like minds, like, but also different minds have about these same topics that are very like, I'm not going to say like they're not like logical alias conversations where you explain like definitions, like it's like, what is friendship? And then you're like, oh, like what is a friendship to me, or a partnership? So I love these conversations. Thanks for having them. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. In case you guys don't know, I did a podcast on logic aliasing. It's like a concept I made up. That's what Jeannie was talking about. But
I do a lot of plugs for you. I love your stuff.
thank you.
Yeah.
I think the whole point is to just share ideas and get people to think. And so I'm so glad when like you guys invite your Aunt Sherry, or even you invited Rocky to come, and then Justine was probably like, Janine, come to this. And then Janine, every time I post something, I see you like, at this person, you need to come to this. And it's like, that to me, I'm like, yes. But
I'm gonna get more people. I love having these conversations with my friends after this too. Like, this is awesome.
cool. In the vein of friendship, I would say, especially in quarantine, I do this, and I would encourage you guys to do this. But please, I think it's super great to receive mail from people, and people love that. So if you could this week sometime, write a letter to somebody, and especially like an old friend you haven't connected with, and just be like, yo, I thought about you, had some good times, maybe ask them a question or something. But I always encourage, like, I think letter writing is super dope. So write somebody a letter.
Do people still write letters?
I write letters.
I'm going to now.
What'd you say, Janine?
I'm going to now. Actually, one of my favorite things I used to do was actually back and forth. We would send each other, sorry, me and Daniel, we would send each other like knock jokes or riddles. And then it wasn't until the next letter you'd get what the answer was. It was like, ah, as Jordan shows all his letters.
Well, okay.
I feel like it's actually like it's more on an elevated status. Now.
Okay.
Like you feel
refreshing.
like you're like, oh, I'm feeling important to this person. And they spend time to actually go down, send this in the mail versus quick message on Facebook or a DM or something.
Well, that goes a long way. I was on a call, a Zoom meeting earlier this week with someone, speaking of relationships, someone that is a business associate, but we're actually, our friendship is evolving out of a work relationship we're developing. And her daughter joined us on the call. And as we were talking about some of the matters on the agenda, I happened to ask her, had she ever seen a stamp? No, had she ever touched a stamp? And she says, well, I've heard of a stamp. It mean in a historical reference. So when you referred to letters, it made that conversation come to mind because she was so sincere. She's heard of a stamp. And I said, no, have you ever actually touched a stamp? And she had never in her life, I mean, the idea of writing a letter would be, I mean, you're talking about from a whole nother globe. So to see, people still writing letters is okay. You haven't cut that part of our culture off totally.
Well, I mean, I know now, like, if you can write in cursive, you're like, oh, you're fancy. Like, that's what, a lot of schools, they don't teach that anymore. So it's just like,
no, please do not write me a letter in cursive. I will not be able to read it.
All right. Well, you guys, as I was just saying to Rocky, I'm going to share this as I was telling you about my college sorors that I'm reconnecting with. I'm going to try to encourage some of them to join. And now they're a pretty rowdy bunch, so be prepared.
That's fine.
Excited, so excited.
They're good people though, but they're very. As we're reconnecting, we find that our meetings are very engaging about politics. I mean, we talk about some of everything, and it's very rewarding because we've got a 40-year perspective now to engage in those conversations. So a lot of what we talk about, I think they would be very much interested in sharing their perspectives. So I'll see if I can rally some of them up to join us.
Cool. Yeah, the more diversity, I think, the better the conversation. Like, if everybody comes respectful, I would like the most different people to come. That way we can get all these different ideas together. So thank you. But yeah, this has been community discussion on friendship. Thank you guys for coming. I will hopefully see you guys soon. And yeah.
Certainly. Everybody be safe and take care of yourselves.
Likewise. Nice meeting you.
You too, Janine. Look forward to seeing you soon. Guys, take care.
I know. Thanks for bringing Rocky.
Thank you again, Rocky, for helping us have this. This would not have happened without you.
Oh, that's what I'm here for.
You guys have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Good night. Boa noite.